What is up, guys? Doing another one down solo. Today I'm finishing up my election day videos. I'm using a different Kingpin build than I was in the other two videos. As you notice, I'm packing two ECM jammers as primaries, primary deployables anyway. So the reason for doing that was, well, to make a long story short, this particular day of this heist was not designed to be done loud, much like Framing Frame Day 3, and I guess in a way Framing Frame Day 1, but more so Framing Frame Day 3. And so the loud variations of this particular day is, in my opinion, extraordinarily lazy and not fun at all. So I wanted to cut down as much time as I possibly could waiting for the voting machines to finish hacking. If you start the voting machine hacks in stealth, they only take 30 seconds, whereas if you start them in loud, they take like a minute and a half, or like a minute 45, maybe a minute 50. I think it's like a minute and a half. But regardless, I brought the two ECM jammers just so I could speed up this first process and get 3, if I'm lucky, 4 voting machines before the alarm goes off. Because as long as it happens before the alarm goes off, there won't be any additional time, which is pretty handy. I think this is the third one I managed to get. I wanted to kill these guards, that way I had a few more seconds for the pagers to end, about 10, 12 extra seconds, just to give myself a bit of extra wiggle room. Of course, if anybody was in the way of a camera, it wouldn't matter, because the camera would just go off like it did there. So ultimately that didn't matter, and I wouldn't have been able to find one in enough time anyway, I don't think, for me to be able to get an extra machine. Yeah, I wouldn't have had enough time anyway. But it's not a big deal. I got 3 that I didn't have to bother defending from the cops, which was pretty handy. And also the ECM jammers allowed me to use ECM feedback a few times through the heist. I just went ahead and activated it there in case there were any quick enemy spawns that wanted to jump in. That way, in case they were like up on the roof or whatever, they would kind of get stuck at the spawn point for at least a few seconds while I tried to find the remaining voting machines that I needed. As I was jumping down, I saw through the top of the grate in the cage and saw that there were 2 boxes in here, so I decided to go ahead and open up this cage. I got really fortunate and was able to get the last 2 voting machines I needed right here. So that was really nice.
Little birdie's home.
I'm not really concerned about this money bag. I'm just throwing it out so I don't try to highlight an enemy and like end up accidentally picking up the money bag. Or rather, start accidentally interacting with it. I had that happen to me on a earlier run where I was kind of holing up in one of the cages, and then I was trying to highlight a medic, and then I had accidentally tried to pick up the money bag, and then it was getting in my way. So, like I was talking about earlier with the design of this loud heist, it really just isn't that much fun. You're babysitting a bunch of glorified drills in the forms of voting machine hacks, and then you have to wait on a 6-minute hack with the security footage, which again just isn't fun whatsoever. It's just a lot of sitting and waiting. However, one plus side about it is that there aren't any power boxes for the enemies to hit to shut off the security footage hack. Otherwise, this would just be a complete and utter... Well, it'd be like Framing Frame Day 3 all over again, which is a nightmare. Absolutely despise that run, just because it's so, like, so boring. went ahead and activated my injector because I didn't want to get two-shot by some random schmuck because I was running across the way. Had to check up here on the top of the stairs and in front of the doorway into this area just to be sure that there weren't any enemies that were camping out up here. I've had that happen to me a few times as I was going up to the computer rack. There'd be a bunch of enemies in the way. So, of course, since I packed 2 ECM jammers as my primary deployables, that only left me with 7 first aid kits as my secondary deployable, which honestly wasn't that bad. Considering that I was able to push through the first part of the heist relatively quickly, and if I was able to prevent the computer from being interrupted with, I'd be able to push through it in about 6.5 minutes, or however long the hack is. I wasn't too terribly concerned with it. Converts, however, did have a bad habit of getting stuck in their location once the objective changed to interact with the security footage. So, thankfully I still had one of the cops I had dominated outside, so he would die relatively easily. However, even though the converts were stuck kind of off to the side, they were keeping the enemies relatively distracted out in the center of the warehouse, so I only had to deal with a few stragglers, at least for the first assault wave. Once the assault wave changes, the focus readjusts to me. But, of course, dozers are the run killers. I pretty much was at no health right there. I'm completely baffled at how I was able to survive that. Dozers are the run killers when it comes to doing these kingpin runs. They are the reason that I pick up crits for these, for this build in particular. I just decided to leave that area. I don't know what level of madness I had right here. I just had some sort of crazy, insane luck, I guess, managing to not die in light of running past all those enemies, and, you know, that dozer almost killing me. It was actually, the past 30 seconds of this run were pretty much a miracle. So, but for this run in particular, really all it took was me usually getting pinched by dozers and not being able to maneuver around enough that I could kill them from behind cover. Because even with the injector on, the bulldozer does enough damage, or the most bulldozers, not all of them, but the Rhinefield bulldozers and I believe the Yzma bulldozers as well do enough damage that it will actually override your injector because it does more damage than you have health. And so, to the best of my understanding, I mean, this is contested by several other people, but this is just from my personal, what do you call it, my personal experience using this for the one-down solo runs that I do. It appears as though the only time you actually die when you have the injector active isn't when the damage dealt is greater than the amount of health you currently have, but rather when it's greater than the number of health than your total health. So getting shot by a bulldozer within like a 20-meter range, for example, if he's using a Rhinefield, deals more damage than I have total health. So if my armor is down, he'll one-shot me even if my injector is active, because it's not possible for me to heal myself for more health than I have, I believe. And so the game's like, yeah, you just got completely wrecked, man, and then just kills you. Which sucks. So you have to be I have to be more careful about dozers in runs with especially no-down runs when I'm using Kingpin, as opposed to like Rogue or even Sicario, which Sicario has recently got kind of stuck because I was trying to hide behind cover from that footage. But thankfully, I had a first aid kit placed over there strategically so I could get myself picked back up. Heard more dozers coming in, so I had to be prepared. Was ready to take them out as quickly as possible. Anyway, going back to talking about Sicario for a second. Sicario's recently been patched to work as intended, so I'm probably going to be doing some runs with it in the future. So no one will be giving me flack for using an apparently broken, legitimately broken quick deck. Thankfully, the bulldozer didn't decide to go Rambo mode on me. It feels like sometimes the dozers have incredible DPS. I think it's the Yzma dozers that are usually the hardcore run killers. The Rhinefield dozers aren't that bad. The Rhinefield dozers usually have a low enough DPS that you can duck in and out of cover fast enough, but these Medozers are pretty crazy, and they just do an insane amount of damage in close range. I don't know the exact damage values. I was looking at a spreadsheet not too long ago, and I was doing some calculations on it, but the TLDR is that dozers suck. Like, even snipers, you'll see later in the video, like towards the end as I'm running to the escape, that snipers, even when the injector's up, won't kill me in one shot, even with my armor down. But dozers are pretty much the only thing that I have to worry about whenever my injector is active, of course. Whenever the injector isn't active and I'm not able to activate it, I'm not necessarily frail, but it really doesn't take much to get overwhelmed. So whenever my injector is not active, I have to be, you know, very conscientious of where I'm holding up, what I'm doing, where enemies spawn from, where they typically run from. So there's typically a lot of thought that has to go into, you know, making sure I cover all my bases. As far as my weapon selection for this particular run, I really enjoy using the Little Friend, and I use it in my general play a lot. And I love using it not just with Kingpin, but with other builds as well. It's kind of difficult to do it with crits due to the nature of its high, or I guess, what you call it, low concealment or high concealment? Well, anyway, the fact that you can't make it very concealable. That shield didn't get hit by the grenade launcher shot. Very strange. It didn't get hit by that one either. I haven't been able to figure out what causes shields to not be hit by grenade launchers. I'm sure it has something to do with weird the weird way that like hitboxes are allocated and the way planes work in this game or something. I have absolutely no idea. Honestly, I'm just kind of BSing it. But regardless, it's pretty annoying when I like directly hit a shield with a grenade launcher and he just kind of shrugs it off. Doesn't take any damage at all. Anyway. Little Friend, not very concealable. However, paired with a micro Uzi or a Bronco or another really concealable pistol such as the oh shoot, like the Bernetti and the Gruber, you can get below 25 concealment, enough to pick up all the necessary percentage points if you ace slow blow. And you could do the same for Sneaky Bastard as well if you wanted to run a full dodge build like with Rogue or something like that, which I have done and I enjoy doing. I like using the Little Friend basically because, you know, it gives you technically 3 primaries. The grenade launcher is pretty much identical in stats to the GL40, in the exception of its pickup rate is actually really close to being 1-for-1. It's like a really high percentage for pickup rate. You know, between 0 and 1 is on the higher end of percentages. I'm not sure on what the exact percentage is because all the stats I look at generally only show it for the AR portion of the gun. I haven't actually seen hard stats on the GL portion of the gun. I just know it's supposed to be akin to the GL40. Regardless, the grenade launcher part of this gun is actually what makes it so great, and the fact that you can switch to the AR mode on the fly, and it's really good, reliable, a really good and reliable DMR as well, even if it's not very ammo efficient. But that's what the grenade launcher portion of it is for, is to kill things and get ammo. I also had the micro Uzi as my backup weapon, of course, because of its high concealment and its ability to kind of shred dozer faceplates. I was trying to decide what path I wanted to take, and I decided to go into this truck before I realized that it didn't have any cover. And I poked my head out here in a second to see which of the 2 trucks are open on my other side. And I saw that one was open, so I decided to run in there because I knew it would have the shipping containers that I could hide behind. Just waiting for my injector to recharge, of course. I'd actually done a run where I made it pretty much to the end, and I was using a Sicario build. I don't remember what guns I was using. I think I was using the Contractor and the Tatanka. But what had ended up happening was I made it to the road, and then I just got eviscerated by some enemies that were hanging out by the cop car. I found another device. I just decided to interact with it because why not? I'm just waiting for my injector to recharge anyway. But yeah, all in all, I like the Little Friend combination with really any of the other guns. If you have points to pick up pistol skills, I actually found out that the Gruber's pretty effective for Well, you know what? I won't say anything about that because that's going to make a guest appearance in a special build that's coming up in the near future. So keep an eye out for that. Anyway, that was Election Day Plan B. 1 down, no downs, no assets, and all that good stuff. Ooh, I just accidentally like punched my mic. My bad, guys. Anyway, as usual, thank you guys so much for watching.